Good day, everyone, and welcome to our very first episode of the Phillips Edge, Your Competitive Advantage webinar series. I'm your host, Lauren Ramsey, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have you all join us today for an insightful journey into the world of robotics with our special episode titled, Why Robots Now? So in this rapidly evolving industrial landscape, understanding and leveraging robotics is no longer just an option. It's a necessity. And that's precisely why I'm here today to demystify and explore the world of robotics. We're going to dive into some key highlights that you can expect from our discussion today. So first, unveiling the simplicity of robotics, we'll demystify the complexities and show how accessible robotics can be. Second, we're going to be exploring a wide range of products. You can expect insights on our cutting-edge solutions from Haas, Universal, Robots, VersaBuilt, and Fanuc. We're also going to look into real stories and real successes. We'll share inspiring customer journeys and their successes in integrating robotics. Fourth, our Opto team's expertise. Discover our team's deep knowledge in robotic solutions can be your competitive advantage in this competitive market. So whether you're a seasoned expert or just beginning to explore the potential of robotics, this webinar is designed to provide valuable insights for everyone. We encourage you to engage with us, ask questions, and be a part of this exciting discussion. I'm honored to be here today to introduce two exceptional professionals in the field. Jason McCurdy is our Vice President of Robotic Sales, and Dave Cirillo, our Senior Applications Engineer. Jason brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in robotics, and we're excited to hear his insights today. Dave's expertise in practical real-world applications of robotics is unparalleled, and he's here to share his invaluable perspective. So without further ado, let's embark on this fascinating journey and understand why robots now. Thank you for being here, and let's get started.
Thank you, Lauren, so much, and thank you everyone for joining us today on this exciting opportunity. We welcome you to this webinar, where, as Lauren said, we'll be exploring why robotics, and more importantly, why today.
Yeah, and our first topic today, we'll be exploring the common misconceptions we hear about robotics. We've talked to a lot of people looking to entertain putting automation into their shops. And we've put together a list of common misconceptions that we've heard from them. The first one's going to be robotics are complicated and too hard to learn.
We do hear that often. And while I would submit that that used to be the case, quite frankly, with the new technology today, it's simply not anymore. It's no harder to learn, I would submit, than embracing new technology in the CNC or a new control. We simply need someone that is willing and committed to owning the process and take ownership of the system. With a willing person, we are confident we can help you with your first robotic solution, find the success that you're looking for. Thank you.
Another misconception we hear is that robots are here to eliminate my job, eliminate employees.
Yes, we do hear that often. And while there certainly is a fear of that today in our world, as we look and embark upon AI and other things, it's simply we're not there yet. And that simply couldn't be further from the truth. The reality for us is that we have 10,000 workers every day that are exiting our workforce. And by 2030, it is estimated that 12,000 will be leaving every day. We simply do not have enough people entering the workforce today to offset our labor loss. What we do see is we see employers providing their employees with a new way to grow, skilling them up and giving them a better quality of life, as we see here in our next video with LNW.
I'm a big family guy, and I love my time with my family, but I love my work too. And before, we was working so many hours, and I'd have to cancel my Saturdays. Sometimes I wouldn't be able to go to ball games in the afternoon, and I'm so glad to be able to do that stuff now. I get to go home, spend time with my family, and plus we still get the same amount of parts out.
That's really neat. And you know, that also shows about putting a robot in your shop. It also empowers your employee. Right? So now that same employee that was once loading and unloading that machine is now the one taking ownership of that robot in the shop. They're almost their partner, their sidekick, right? They're able to build on a skill that they didn't have before by just being a machinist. Now they're learning how to set up and also even program. We see that program the robot. So it's a building block that you give your employees.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Dave. Well said.
All right. So another one is I'm not an OEM and I don't have long running parts. Are robots for me?
Yeah. I mean, a decade ago, I would have said you're probably correct. Traditional robots have in the past historically been expensive. They've have large footprints. They're complicated to program, as we see with script coding. The reality is that the technology's come a long way, and there's really at this point no job too big or too small with our product offerings. A great example of that is Rusty's Machine Shop. Rusty is a single owner shop, just him and his wife operate it. They run a high mix, low volume environment. Here's what Rusty had to say about his experience with robotics.
My name is Rusty Sampson. The name of my company is Rusty's Machine and Tool Incorporated. We are a job shop, high mix, low volume. We do a lot of different variety of parts. Most of them are under 500 part quantity, different types of material, different style of parts. Before the automation system, we was only able to run 8 to 10 hours a day. Somebody had to be at the machine when it was time for a parts change. With the Phillips automation system, that has changed because it can run unattended for the duration of the material loaded on the table, which allows myself to set up other machines while this is running. And it can also run lights out operation, which has increased our production 2 times, sometimes even 3-fold.
My name is Ben Vanderhoof. I am an applications engineer for the Opto team, and I work for Phillips Corporation. Rusty needed automation to help his parts run because he's a one-man shop. The UR VersaBuilt system was considered because it is a really simple, easy design. You use the work holding to pick up your parts, to place your parts. End-of-arm tooling was a huge factor in this because Rusty doesn't run just one part. He runs multiple ones, so he needed something that would change over to run different parts really quickly and really easy. The VersaBuilt system with the UR robot fit that bill really well.
I estimate a return on investment within about a year. I would recommend Phillips Opto to anyone who is looking to bring automation into their operations because of the knowledge of the team, the service after the sale, and just all around good folks to deal with.
Oh, real quick, before we continue, one thing I got to point out about that video is if you notice, that's about a 3x4 table with the robot onto the side. The ergonomics itself are just phenomenal, right? We can still have operators getting in, setting up, maybe even running the machine during the day by hand and turning it over to the robot at night. That's very neat to see.
Yeah, that's a good point, and certainly has been a big selling feature for our robotics today.
All right, let's get into this one. Final misconception: the initial cost of robotics is too high.
We do hear that sometimes, and certainly I will submit that depending on what you're trying to accomplish, robotics can become complex and often expensive. But I encourage you to look at the total cost of ownership of the project and not simply the initial cost of investment. So how do we do that? Well, we do that through ROI, return on investment, and through payback reports. We'll be exploring that in our next section and covering that topic in detail.
Oh, yeah.
A couple of things I want to leave you with today in this section is that we've learned over the years is when you're starting automation, whether that's Phillips or someone else, it's critical that you choose the right partner as you embrace robotics for the first time. Your success in your first robot integration will determine what your robot future looks like. I'd also encourage you to start simple. As with anything with new technology, we want to walk before we run. Oftentimes I'll go in with customers and they'll take me back to the most complex, process that they have in their entire organization and ask for us to automate it. The truth is that we can do automation in those cells. There's really nothing time and money can't solve. That said, we'd love to see a smaller step in robotics and putting you in a position for success. Think dovetail applications or machine prep, material prep work on machine tools. Those simple pick and place opportunities put you in a position for a quick return on investment and lead you straight down the path of success. Cycle time versus throughput. this has often been a conversation over the years for us. Cycle time has been critical. And while I will submit that often I cannot beat your manual operator in load and unload time, what I would encourage you to understand is that we can beat that employee because we're going to be there for 24 hours or as long as you can continue to feed material to that in-feed table. So when your employee leaves or takes a break, our robot continues to perform. New technology does take new thinking. If I'm thinking back and I'm thinking when we had manual machines in our machine shops all the way to NC and then CNC, oftentimes I would go in these machine shops and I would hear from our client base, we're never going to embrace CNC. This is an art form and this is where we're going to head. The reality is that there's very few machine shops in America right now that have not embraced CNC technology. And I believe we're going to find that across the board as technology increases.
That's right. You even think about the probing systems. You think about 3+2 machining, right? That industry, or the industry stepped up and made probing much easier to use, to own, as well as 5-axis machining with trunnions, with ease of programming, with DWO TCPC on Haas machines. We're seeing more and more customers check that box when they order new machines and make it a standard of practice in their purchasing. To be using 5-axis machining and probing every single day. And that's exactly the same kind of movement that robots are doing to manufacturing right now. They're changing how easy it is to own, to operate, to program. In our machine shops today to have we'll see it, the return on investment be more powerful than we expect.
Dave, that's a great point. Finally, what I want to leave you with is that while we are one of the #1 Haas distributors in the world for the Phillips Corporation, we do more than just Haas machine tools and machine tending with robotics. So whether that's another machine tool brand, whether you're stepping into welding, palletizing, painting, deburring, sanding, those are opportunities for us to explore together and find the right fit or the right partner to make sure that you succeed in your first steps into robotics.
That's right. In our next section here, we're going to talk about the different products that we offer here at Phillips Corporation in terms of automation. They each have a place in our industry and have a way to support you in your shop differently. Which one's right for you, which one you want to consider, and how you scale up from any option that we offer. The first one we can talk about is going to be the Fanic robots. Then we can talk about our universal robots, being the collaborative robots that we sell, as you've seen in the videos there. You even saw the video where the VersaBuilt system was integrated with the universal robot. Jason will talk about that, and then also talk about the Haas robots, the traditional as well as the new Cobot series that they offer.
Yeah, we have a lot of exciting product offerings. What we found at Phillips, much like CNC machine tools, there's not a one size that fits all. Phillips has a wide range of products and experts to help you. We'll start at the top with some of our more expensive solutions with our Fanic industrial robots. These robots have superhuman speeds and superhuman strengths. We partner with our counterpart Productivity, who is a Haas factory outlet in themselves in the Midwest, but have been in robotics for 30 years now. Their projects seem to be more complex, and where we build it for one part or maybe a family of parts. Think conveyors, camera systems, logic, scanners, etc. These robot packages range from about $200,000 to well over $1 million at times. And then we turn to universal robots. Universal robots are the #1 collaborative robot in the US right now. These are collaborative robots with human speeds and human strengths. These robots are safe. They need no fencing. They have force feedback that monitors joint load and stops if the robot has force applied. Humans and robots can work side by side to accomplish more with less. These robots have flexibility to be deployed in almost every situation. These projects range from simple pick and place all the way up to extremely complex processes. Most of our full integration systems are around $125,000 to $200,000. Let's take a look here at one of our clients that's currently using one of our universal robot custom-built solutions.
My name is Joe Worley. I'm the president here of Alphatech. We have about 3 legs that we stand on. We do contract manufacturing. We do a lot of tool and die work. And then we do what I would call small-scale mechanization.
When I arrived, the robotic package was sold to Alphatech as a starting ground for what they were trying to expand on with automating a product that they were currently making, but need to have more throughput. And the solution that we provided was to allow them to run that extra day, an extra shift essentially, to get that throughput higher for their needs.
Having Opto come in and just doing everything for us and then sharing with us how they did it really put us on a path for success. From the standpoint of production, we started out, our customer wanted 500 parts per week. We were unable to deliver that. We were delivering about a third of it, and now we're delivering 2,000 parts per month. Our goal when we bought the robot was, I think we paid $80,000 for the solution or thereabouts. And if you take 2 $15 an hour employees, that's $30,000 a year times 2, that's $60,000. You add benefits to that. And so the ROI on the robot was pretty much, 3 months or less.
We are able to look at just the floor in itself in a different way now. Looking at jobs that maybe the quantities are increasing to a level that we would need to automate. So Phillips has given us the knowledge that we need to make those steps and to grow that in our CNC area.
Dave, this was incredible. What a great custom-built solution that you created for Alphatech, who has since purchased 3 more robots and has not needed us at all.
That's right. They took off with what we gave them on day 1 with the robot installation. You might have seen our MTT table the robot was mounted on. It's a product that we also offer that helps reduce footprint while using gravity to help locate your material for infeed. But they took the basic training there and they adapted it further in their shop. They are now buying robots, they're installing it on their own, they're programming it on their own. With just their initial investment, they've grown tremendously.
Absolutely. Our next solution here is a perfect fit for that high mix, low volume environment as we were talking about before with the VersaBuilt system. These work hand in hand with our universal robots. They utilize simple template-driven systems to program. Think your iPad or your iPhone. And they utilize vice soft jaws as gripper fingers to pick up and set down parts. Bottom line, if you can cut soft jaws for your 6-inch Kurt vise, you can navigate managing the work holding and the fingers for your robotic setup. These robot sales typically range from about $100,000 to $120,000. And certainly last but not least is our newest addition is our Haas robots. Both in traditional and collaborative in their product offering, these systems are fully integrated into the Haas control, so they're extremely simple to utilize. In fact, if you've already understand the VPS template, you're ahead of the curve and you're ready to begin. All of these can start at an incredibly low price point of $45,000 to $100,000.
That's right. And one key point or key element that I want to point out here is that with the Haas robot packages all being programmed through the Haas control the same way, you can start with an introductory robot package with the collaborative robot for a very affordable price on your new machine. And then you can scale up to a full automation, industrial size robot operating much faster, able to carry more payloads, for zero learning curve. All you're doing is a larger robot installation.
Absolutely. It's an incredible opportunity for us, and we look forward to what this is going to bring and what it will create in our industry. In our final section, we're going to cover ROI and payback. So again, ROI, what is it? It's simply return on investment. And one of the ways we can calculate ROI is through the payback period. While this sounds complicated, and often it can be depending on how granular you get in the details, it also can be performed, as we've seen with some of our clients, using simple variables such as initial investment and shop rate. One of our clients simply took their initial investment of $140,000 for their robotic solution. They divided it by their shop rate of $120 per hour. This told our client that he would need 1,166 hours of production time to pay back his investment. 1,166 divided by 8 hours in a day tells us we have 145 days that was needed in production to pay back this investment. If we want to get quicker and move our payback period forward, we would simply have to add another shift, and we could easily cut that number in half. Dave will take it from here, and he'll give us an introductory on capacity and our costs associated with calculating payback. Dave?
Absolutely, thank you. So one of the first things I want to talk about when talking about getting your return is the cost comparison. Very simple chart we can pull up and show you here to show you the difference between manual operation versus automated operation, the cost of ownership here. So in the blue bars, you can notice that the $75,000 a year is the cost for paying your operator. That is always consistent. It's never going to go down. It might go up if they get a raise, but ultimately it's going to stay around the same. With automation, we're going to have a significant increase in investment the first year. That's going to be your hardware that you're actually buying, the integration, the training, and then also the cost of operating that. So we can see the initial investment of, let's say, 140 plus the $15,000 that it costs annually to operate automation every year after that. We see that shown in the first year, but goes away and have only $15,000 of cost operation for the remaining years after that. If we do the math here, at about year 3, we start to see the crossover where the cost of manual operation would be about $225,000, but the cost of automation would only be about $185,000. You can see that's a year 4, and we could see down below, cost of manual production over 4 years is $300,000. Cost of automation production over 4 years is only $200,000. That's $100,000 less already that we're paying to have automation in our shop. The other benefit you get out of automation is going to be increased productivity. So we're going to see on this next slide here that we can expect on average about 30% more production rate out of a robot tending a machine cell. So that means if I'm already making 250 parts per week, I can expect to get about 325 parts per week. Let's say hypothetically we make $20 per part. Therefore, in that week, we just made an extra $1,500 in profit. Multiply that times 52 weeks, that's $78,000 in profit we are now seeing. Over 4 years, that's $312,000 of extra profit we are seeing. That's already starting to pay for itself. When I talk about ROI, I like to talk about not just the monetary point, but also the performance measures that we have along with it, right? So that's going to be the increased production rate, the increase in reliability, the decrease in scrap, right? So let's talk about those points real quick. Increased production rate. Yes, humans will win the race when racing robots, loading and unloading parts. We see it all the time. People have the misconception that they can do it faster, therefore they can outperform a robot. But robots don't take breaks, right? The reliability that they have is also a huge part of it. And when operators are operating at that high of a level, we have a serious fatigue element coming into play. We have safety element coming into play, and also quality control. They start to have oversights over the product that they're making. Robots are here to take out the dull, the dirty, and the dangerous parts of our job, right? So along with that, they're going to impact our production rate by staying there and working the hours that we aren't working, right? The increased reliability. So robots, I've never seen one not show up for work, right? They don't get sick, they don't take breaks, they don't take vacations. They might need a little bit of maintenance from time to time, but ultimately that's overcomable, or you can overcome that. Decreased scrap rate. So what I mean by this is typically, we ask a human to load and unload a machine. Also, we ask them for spot checking on parts, right? They're the human element, or they're the element there that stops quality from becoming bad right there on the spot. Oftentimes it gets overlooked by having excess demand on the operators. They might be having to pay attention to multiple machines and just take a part out, put the next part in, and hit cycle start, right? Well, with automation, one thing that we standardize when we do our installations and our training is helping you understand the risk in your process. And matter of fact, that's one element of owning automation that you can start with today. Our team of experts has several tips and lots of advice we can give you on analyzing your machining process to make sure that automation is ready to be run more hours than you expect unattended. As we start to do the calculations for the payback point, there are some things that we have to understand, and I'm not going to bore you with all the details here, but we certainly can get into them with you in more detail with your applications. But some things I want to highlight here are understanding the cost of production. What I mean by that is, what's the cost of the scrap? Let's say there is a bad part. Let's understand that. The cost of the material, right? Everything going into this product, I want to understand up to this point. We also need to understand the wages and the availability of your operators. And that's both if we're operating manually and also if we're operating with automation, right? We're still going to need an operator. Like we said, we're not trying to take out their job. We're still going to need to pay them. But you'll see it's for a much reduced part of their day, and we're going to factor that in. One more thing that we'll account for is the total investment cost of automation. What package is right for you, right? That could vary depending on your shop, your needs. So we can adjust that as needed as well. I'm going to show you a scenario now where we took a general application that we hear often. This is going to be a shop running a single shift. They are having an increase in demand on their parts that they're currently making on existing equipment. They don't want to move to a second shift, right? They want to indulge in automation. And with that, they're going to run 2 extra hours. They're not ready quite yet for full lights out, but they want to run 2 extra hours per day with their robot, right? They could set up the in-feed table with raw material, hit the button and go home for 2 hours. When they come back in, they've just gained that production rate that they didn't have before. So if we can pop up here, I'm going to show you some of the basic numbers that we're going to use in that. So their demand is 6,000 parts per year. The cycle time is almost 16 minutes. And they plan on running their robot cell for 10 hours a day. We've got some other questions about the wages and the cost of production. We put all that stuff in the background using common values, and we can calculate the outcome that we can see for a payback point. So here on this payback point, first thing we're going to look at is we're going to see that there's an annual operating cost if I just operate manually during a 14-hour payback period, annually is $79,000. To automate and operate, it would only be $23,000. Now that's not your initial cost, that's just the cost of operation. Over a target payback point of 14 months, the annual cost difference of manual versus automation is only $75,000. So along with that $75,000, so that's just the initial cost difference. But during that time, we're also able to produce significantly more parts with automation. We talked about the 30% gain. So with that, we calculate up about 3,200 extra parts. And if we do some simple math, I say simple, it's simple for the calculator. If we do some math here, we can come up with a value of $16.15. Now that value represents the profit needs to be made per part to justify our entire investment over 14 months. So if you can get $16.15 of profit out of your part, this is achievable. Let's apply that profit to the number of parts that we can make extra by using automation. Multiply those two together and we get almost $52,000 of extra profit that we are able to see right there. Now you subtract that from the $75,000 and your actual investment cost goes down to only $23,000.
That's incredible.
The second scenario we're going to talk about is going to be something where the customer has two shifts running, the same demand or the same project. So cycle times don't change, operator costs don't change, but their demand doubles because they're running 2 shifts now. Instead of doubling the operation time for the robot from 10 to 20 hours, they're simply going to run the robot only time that the operators are there. So 8 hours and 8 hours. If we do the calculations on this, we can see that the annual cost of operating manually 2 shifts goes up to $145,000. The annual operating cost for automation is only $36,406. We're using the same payback point of 14 months, and we can see the cost difference over the 14 months goes down to only $13,191. Now, if you remember, because we have 30% increased production, we're producing more parts. So I can see 2,500 more parts on average. Our price point, our profit point per part goes down when running 2 shifts, goes down to $10.86. And if I multiply those together, I get an extra profit of $27,236. Now let's subtract that from the $13,000. That brings it down to making profit, not having debt, but making profit of $14,000 in those 14 months. So your payback point is actually very much more achievable before 14 months.
That's a great point, Dave. And sometimes it makes good business sense to move into automation.
That's right.
Which is often overlooked.
That's right. And one of the final things that automation brings is, we mentioned before, it's not going to replace your operator, but instead it's going to give them the ability to do more in your shop, right? Like Jason emphasized earlier, you don't want your operator loading and unloading dovetail operations that don't bring much revenue to your business. You can have them doing something more specific that's more skill oriented and suits their needs. So here we can see that the capacity utilization in your shop, if we look at manual operation, and this is the same stats that we use for our calculations, the operator out of their 8-hour shift is really only getting hands-on with the machine for 2% of their day. With automation, they're getting hands-on for 13%. And that's me using a 1 hour over an 8-hour period of them being needed to load and unload materials, right? The nice thing about that is that's bigger chunks. I don't have to have them standing around for 16 minutes to then load a part for 30 seconds, right? So I've now isolated more of their time in bigger chunks out of the day and can schedule more work for them to be doing outside of the production area and focus more on getting my investment working better for me.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Dave, very much. We certainly appreciate that introduction into ROI and how to calculate payback. We encourage each of you to bring us your projects and to bring us your different scenarios and have our team of experts work through those to put you in the best position for success. We want to thank you all again for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in our next segment in the future. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, gentlemen. We appreciate y'all being here today. This is a great kickoff to our inaugural webinar series, the Phillips Edge, Your Competitive Advantage. We've been able to shift through a lot of conversation today. So I encourage each of you that have questions and takeaways regarding our robotics team, please feel free to reach out to our experts. They're here. We've actually got Ben in the chat. So if you've got questions that you want to pop in there now, by all means, go for it. We could take a few questions now, or we'll absolutely make sure our team follows up with you. In next month's series, we will sit down with our team from Absolute Machine Tools with our engineered products division. I'm excited to have them on so we can talk about some precision production. So we definitely will have more information for how to get registered for next month's webinar for you soon. Again, thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here today. Be sure to reach out to our team of robotics experts to be able to talk about any automation you'd like to incorporate and take your business to the next level. Until next time.